Kakadosh Boker Or, Bekiim Bahalacha 2, day 36, Siman 3, Halacha Gimel. This halacha might be very costly in time. We're speaking about sacrificing time. Okay? And it says, right, like this. This halacha might be very costly in time going to the washroom immediately, if you remember. Some people are habitually constipated, and it takes them a long time to relieve themselves, even when they have the urge. Others need to relieve themselves several times a day. Although this takes away from the time that they should learning Torah study, the halacha must be observed. This activity is likewise a mitzvah. The Hechal Alafim write regarding this, what is our time for if not to do what is proper in Hashem's eyes? 15. The source of this halacha is Oziel of the Ben Ish Chai, postponing relief as medical treatment. Let's see what it says over here. The Nemukei Orach Chaim, cited his father relating that his holy Torah mentors taught him a tradition that if someone suffers from diarrhea but is otherwise healthy, he should treat his condition by forcing himself to hold in whenever possible, rather than go to the restroom and surrendering it to the urge to avoid. His condition is due to some of an internal inflammation that makes him feel an urge to defecate very often. By refusing to relieve himself, he will overcome his condition and recover. In such a case, this person is not guilty of the Bal Teshaketsu, although he ignores the urge to relieve himself. It is permissible to postpone relief for medicinal purposes. Meaning here it's the exact opposite. He's stopping in order to cure himself. So therefore there's no problem. Right? There's no issue. The response of Shraga Hameir cited a proof to this ruling from the Talmud, relating that Shemuel wished to cure Rav of his constipation. He fed him barley bread, fried sardines and beer, but then he blocked the way to the restroom. Although Rav felt a strong urge to relieve himself, he wanted Rav to postpone relieving himself until the healing substance had a chance to permeate his system. Apparently, when someone postpones relief for medicinal purposes, he does not transgress the Yisur of Bal Teshaketsu. Okay. Halacha number 4. Interrupting Torah study. If someone felt an urge to relieve himself after he began studying Torah, during the synagogue Torah reading, during the reading of Megillat Esther, or while he's saying the Hallel, he may finish doing what he's doing and then go to relieve himself, as long as he feels he could postpone relieving himself for 72 minutes if he was forced to do so. Even if he is not sure, right, he would be able to postpone himself for 72 minutes. Still permissible to finish what he's doing before going on to relieve himself. If he knows that he would not be able to postpone himself relieving himself for 72 minutes, the proper thing is to interrupt what he's doing to go to relieve himself immediately. If this will result in loss of Torah study, he can gain time postponing relieving himself for a few minutes. However, he must postpone for a short time. Likewise, if he's in the midst of teaching a Torah class and an interruption would cause the entire group to miss Torah learning, he may postpone it for a few minutes. Let's see. So 116. No, we're not in Shmona. 1 minute. Yeah? The Ben Ish Chai, okay, states, if someone feels, I think it's going to be later on though, that we'll speak about it. Okay? He comes and he says like this. He says, the Ben Ish Chai, right, says, if someone feels an urge to relieve himself while he's in the midst of studying Torah or some other activity, it is quite foolish for him to wait until he finishes the passage of Zohar or chapters of Tehillim that he's reading before going to relieve himself. In fact, the mitzvah accomplishes through a sin. So it's not a mitzvah. So what's he doing? The Rishon LeZion suggests that this ruling is refuted by the Mishnah. Right? The Mishnah Brura says, since the Maran ruled in the Shulchan Aruch, that if someone feels such an urge while saying the Amidah, here you have it, Kudo, right? He says he must not interrupt his prayers. Right? The Mishnah Brura deduced the same leniency applies if such an urge comes, and he's in the Torah reading. Since he began to listen before he felt any urge, so therefore postponing it does not infringe on the provision of Shekutu. He continued to listen to the Torah reading. Likewise, he means respond to all the blessings and Marechu and everything. The same applies if someone was in the middle of reciting Hallel or Megillat Esther or something similar. As long as his urgency to relieve is not strong enough to be an infringement of the prohibition of Shekutu, he may finish whatever he's doing before relieving himself. In fact, even if someone is in the middle of studying Torah and he feels an urge to relieve himself, he may finish the passage that he's studying at the moment, even though he estimates that he would not be able to postpone himself for 72 minutes. There's the halacha concept that permits someone to complete what his activity is, because since he started right be'eter, he could continue going, just like we find by Shabbat. Right over there is like, if you started be'eter, so you don't have to stop at Shabbat or stop before the mincha or stop like that. You understand me? That once you start something be'eter, you can continue. Okay? The Rishon LeZion concurred with this ruling, but he added that this ruling applies only if the person feels that he would be able to postpone himself for 72 minutes, or if he at least thinks that he might be able to do so. If he's sure that he would not be able to postpone doing so, then the correct thing to do is to interrupt and then to go. If stopping immediately would would result in the loss of Torah study, with the person teaching Torah of a group, so then he may postpone relieving himself. Okay? The Kudu said disagree with this interpretation of his father's rulings, claiming that the editor of the Halichot Olam misunderstood his words. The halacha is that it appears above, however, as is written by the editor of Halichot Olam, Rav David Yosef. Meaning it's a machlok between Rav David Yosef and Rav Yitzchak Yosef. What is the shita of their father? Okay? Does it have to be that that he knows that it's 72 minutes or without that or not? Okay, next, halacha number 5. Even someone is comfortably wrapped up in his blankets in bed at night. If he feels an urge to relieve himself, he should get up despite the cold and darkness and take care of his needs. When someone wakes up in the middle of the night to relieve himself and he plans to go back to sleep immediately, he should relieve himself, wash his hands after exiting the restroom, and recite Asher Yatzar. He should not recite the blessings of Tilat Tadaim since he plans to go back to sleep. Upon rising in the morning, he says the Tilat Tadaim again and he does the bracha and all the brachot of the mitzvot. Obviously, I'm saying he's going back to sleep. He just went to wash him. So just Asher Yatzar. Okay, footnote 117. Okay, the Or Letzion wrote that the poskim debated halacha that someone wakes up in the middle of the night, does Netilat Tadaim, and then later goes back to sleep until the morning. See the Bet Yosef. One opinion is that he says Netilat Tadaim both times. Other people say he says it only once. The Or Letzion concluded that one should postpone the blessing until he wakes up the second time around. That's the ruling of the Yalkut Yosef as well. There might be a simpler way to reconcile this issue. Some poskim rule that one may perform the morning Netilat Tadaim without using a utensil to pour water on the hands. After exiting the restroom during the day, it is not necessary to wash one's hands with a utensil. It's enough just to turn on the faucet and rinse the hands with the water streaming down. Look at Yalkut Yosef. In fact, the Or Letzion ruled that although it is preferable to use a utensil for the morning Netilat Tadaim, one can fulfill mitzvah if he does not have a utensil. The Rishon Letzion, however, ruled that it is not all certain that a mitzvah could be fulfilled without a utensil. Therefore, he says, don't make the bracha unless you have a utensil. Okay? In light of this, when the person rises in the middle of the night and he goes back to sleep, it is likely that he could rely upon the lenient opinion to perform the Netilat Tadaim without a utensil, simply rinsing the hands under the faucet. Then he can certainly say the bracha in the morning on the Netilat Tadaim with a utensil. Because since the first time around you didn't do it properly, because Ki'ilu you did it without a utensil, but according to some people it does help, so never do it without a bracha. In the morning you do it with bracha. Neither, right, the Or Letzion or Yekuza mentioned the fact that it's necessary to perform Netilat Tadaim before relieving oneself. Nevertheless, there's no question that it is necessary since the person walks from the bed to the restroom, which is most likely this is more than 4 amot. Furthermore, he needs to do Netilat Tadaim in order to clean himself and touch his body parts. The Ben Ish Chai rule clearly that one must perform Netilat Tadaim upon waking up before going to restroom. And according to the Ben Ish Chai, you have to do Netilat Tadaim before going to restroom. Forget about afterwards. Before, how do you go to the restroom? You have 4 amot plus, right, when you're touching your body parts. Rishon Zalman Auerbach ruled that if someone gets up in the middle of the night to relieve himself and go back to sleep, he may go to the restroom without doing Netilat Tadaim next to his bed. He can perform Netilat Tadaim in the sink. In this case, he explained one may rely upon the poskim that say that as long as one is inside the house, it's all 4 amot. He cited the Hechal of Rambochat, who ruled that only after the one is risen for the day, it is forbidden to go for Dalad amot without Netilat Tadaim, but not when you're going back to sleep. Although this might not be accepted ruling, and it's possible the Ben Ish Chai argues with this, right? We still may be lenient on this. Rav Auerbach added that when necessary, one may relieve himself without washing one's hands at all. Not right. He says not before relieving oneself or not afterwards. One can wait until the morning to do Asher Yatzar. This is not to be followed in practice. However, the Yalkut Yosef clearly said that you have to say Asher Yatzar before going back to sleep. The maximum time is 72 minutes, as is going to be explained later on. So therefore, don't wait until later. When washing hands, right, would keep one awake. What about now? If you're going to wash your hands, you're going to stay awake, and you don't want to stay awake. You want to go back to sleep. So the Yalkut Yosef discussed the situation of a person who woke up in the middle of the night to relieve himself, but he feels if he pours cold water on his hands, he won't be able to fall asleep. In this case, or any other situation where it's difficult to wash one's hands in water, one may be lenient and cleanse the hands with a towel or anything else that wipes and cleans, and then he could say the bracha Asher Yatzar. This ruling is based upon the response of Rabbi Omer that says if someone wakes up thirsty in the middle of the night, he may drink water without doing Netilat Tadaim and go back to sleep. All he needs is just to wipe his hands clean before reciting the bracha of Shakol, and then there's no problem.